Okay, so we are now in the heart of the 2025 college football season, so we have a good idea who the worst teams in college football are. Some of the teams on today's list are regulars, and some of them are new for the 2025 season. In today's video, I want to talk about 12 teams that I think have an argument at being the worst team in college football. I'm going to go through them, how their seasons have gone, and then at the end, I'm going to pick which one I think is the worst. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about who is the worst team in college football. Okay, so the first program we're going to talk about is the Charlotte 49ers. A lot of people think that Charlotte will eventually be good at football, but for now, they are in major rebuild mode. Currently, the 49ers are 1-6, and they're pretty much dead last in the American Conference. New head coach from Ohio, Tim Albin, has not been able to get things going, as so far this season, they've pretty much lost to everyone. They lost Week 1 to App State, Week 2 to North Carolina, Week 4 to Rice, against USF, against Army, and against Temple. Most recent games have not even been competitive, and their only win comes against Monmouth, who to be fair, is a top 10 team in the FCS, but that doesn't really mean much for Charlotte. The game was also only by 7 points. The 49ers are absolutely terrible, and with a schedule that includes Georgia, Tulane, and North Texas, I don't know if Charlotte wins another football game. Maybe they can upset UTSA at home, but probably not. Charlotte is horrible this year. The second team I want to talk about is from the ACC, and that is the Boston College Eagles. Just like Charlotte, they are currently 1-6 and also dead last in the conference. Head coach Bill O'Brien may not have a job much longer, as besides a Week 1 win over Fordham, it has been horrible for them. To be fair, they almost knocked off Michigan State on the road, but lost in overtime, and then also had a chance at beating Cal, but made a critical error on the last play. Besides that, they also got beat by Stanford, got killed by Pitt, got killed by Clemson, and then this past weekend, got beat by double digits at home at the hands of UConn. Boston College is on a 6-game losing streak, and I'm not sure if that ends. They have 2 back-to-back ranked teams in Louisville and Notre Dame, an undefeated conference team in SMU, a top 10 Georgia Tech team, and then a road matchup with Syracuse. Their best chance at a win is against Syracuse, which I don't think will happen, and there's a real chance that Boston College will go 1-11, and this could be one of the worst years in school history, and they may need a new head coach, to be honest. Another team that used to be Power 4 that we're going to put on the list is the Oregon State Beavers. They have not exactly had the richest program history, but Jonathan Smith made the Beavers a respectable team in his era there. Unfortunately, he decided to move on to Michigan State, and Trent Bray has not been able to get things going for them. In Week 1, they ended up getting beat by Cal, in Week 2, they lost to Fresno State, and in Week 3, they got killed by Texas Tech. They then continued losing as they got killed by Oregon, blew a late lead to Houston, and then lost on the road against Appalachian State. That had to be the low point for them, but then they ended up losing to Wake Forest before finally getting their first win this past weekend against Lafayette, who they were tied with at halftime. Oregon State is currently 1-7, and they are in a terrible spot. I have no clue what they need to do to turn the program around, but they kind of lost their Power 4 status. It was hard to win there to begin with, and it seems like Oregon State is back to their old selves, which is not very good, and it's honestly sad to see, because I do want Oregon State to be good at football. Moving over to Conference USA, we need to talk about the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. Middle Tennessee is not exactly known as a high-performing program either, but this year has been really bad for them. They are currently sitting with a 1-5 record, and they're pretty much dead last in Conference USA, as so far this season, they have a loss to Wisconsin, Marshall, Kennesaw State, and Missouri State. Keep in mind, the Missouri State Bears are in their first season in the FBS, and I'm also forgetting their game against Austin Peay. Austin Peay is legitimately an FCS school, and the Governors ended up winning that game 34-14 at Middle Tennessee Stadium. There is one win on the schedule, as that came against the Nevada Wolfpack, who are in really bad shape as well, but Middle Tennessee is not having a good season at all, and so far, they are horrible. To finish out the season, maybe they can beat Sam Houston State, who they will face at home in late November. I think there's a good chance that they go 2-10 or 1-11, which is just terrible for them. Up next, we're going to talk about the Conference USA member, Sam Houston State Bearcats. After moving up from the FCS to the FBS, Sam Houston would initially see some success, but in 2025 under head coach Phil Longo, it has been absolutely abysmal. In Week 1, they ended up getting blown out by Western Kentucky, and they then lost to UNLV. They would then lose on the road to Hawaii, get shut out by Texas, get killed by New Mexico State, and then lose a close one to Jacksonville State. This weekend they ended up getting beat pretty badly by UTEP, and currently the Bearcats are 0-7 and dead last in Conference USA. It has not been a good season for them, and their head coach ended up leaving for Temple in Casey Keeler, and they are just trying to pick up the pieces. To finish the year, they have Louisiana Tech, Oregon State, Delaware, Middle Tennessee, and Florida International, and games against Oregon State and Middle Tennessee might actually be decently competitive, but both of them are on the road. I think there's a non-zero chance that Sam Houston State goes 0-12 and has one of the worst seasons in college football history. And to wrap up the first half of the video, we need to talk about the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They are usually not on a list like this, as Oklahoma State has been pretty consistent in the Big 12, especially under head coach Mike Gundy. Unfortunately, the rails fell off this season, as currently the Cowboys are 1-6, last in the Big 12, and ended up moving on from their beloved head coach. Things have not gone according to plan, and their only win on the season comes in Week 1 against UT Martin. Things might be a little bit different if they had House Heine, their starting quarterback, but he got injured in Week 1, and since then it has just been abysmal. Neither Zane Flores or Sam Jackson have been able to get anything going at quarterback, which has led to losses against Oregon, Baylor, Arizona, Houston, and Cincinnati, all of which have been blowouts. Their only close game was a loss at home against Tulsa, and for the Golden Hurricane to come in and win that game was super embarrassing for them. They've obviously moved on from Mike Gundy, and Oklahoma State has a tough finish to the season. They still have to play Texas Tech, Kansas, K-State, UCF, and Iowa State. Their best chance at a win is probably a road matchup with UCF, or maybe at home against K-State, but I would not pick them in any of these 5 games right now. I have no reason to. There's a chance that Oklahoma State also goes 1-11, but I'd probably put my money that they'll win 1 game and finish at 2-10. They'll definitely need to nail their next head coaching hire, or things could be really bad in Stillwater for quite some time. Going over to the MAC, we have a team that is usually on the list in the Kent State Golden Flashes. Pretty much every year they are a top 3 worst team, and some argue they were dead last year. Kent State has moved into a new direction, and seemingly they have found a little bit more success. They are currently 2-5 and are 8th in the MAC. There are technically 4 teams worse than them, which is pretty crazy to me. They have 2 wins on the season, one of which came against Merrimack and the other came against UMass. They destroyed the Minutemen 42-6, whereas they only beat Merrimack by 4. Weird. The other games they played were losses to Texas Tech, a loss to Buffalo, a loss to Florida State, a shutout by Oklahoma, and most recently a loss against Toledo. They are competitive in the Buffalo game, but the other 4 have been blowouts for them. To finish the year, they'll play against Bowling Green, Ball State, Akron, Central Michigan, and Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois and Akron are both really bad, so there's a chance that maybe they could pull off an upset there, but if I had to put my money on it, Kent State will finish with a 2-10 record, or at best a 3-9 record. Heading over to the Mountain West, the worst team in that conference is the Nevada Wolfpack. Typically, the Wolfpack were one of the better programs in the conference, but they have just been really bad since Jay Norvell left. Currently, Nevada is 1-6, and they're the only winless team in the Mountain West Conference. They started out the season getting blown out by number 2 Penn State before their only win of the season came in a 3-point victory over Sacramento State, who's at the FCS level. They also ended up losing to Middle Tennessee, who's also on this list, and they lost that game by 1 point. And since then, they have been competitive as they had some close losses to Fresno and New Mexico, but they ended up getting killed by both Western Kentucky and San Diego State. Nevada is just not a good football team this year, and to finish it off, they'll play against Boise, Utah State, San Jose State, and Wyoming, plus a game against UNLV. Obviously, the UNLV and Boise State games should be blowouts, and San Jose State is getting better, so I'm not sure if I really see a win on the schedule for them. There's a chance that Nevada goes 1-11, but maybe they steal a game against Wyoming or Utah State. I don't know, but things are really bad right now for the Pack. Heading back over to the MAC, we're going to talk about the Northern Illinois Huskies. They are also usually near the top, but this season has been uncharacteristically bad. They are currently 1-6, and they are tied for last place with UMass in the conference. In Week 1, they ended up beating Holy Cross by 2 points, and that showed that it was going to be a tough season for them. Since then, they have lost 6 straight games, as they lost on the road to both Maryland and Mississippi State, lost 6-3 against San Diego State, and then in the last couple of weeks have gotten beat by Miami of Ohio, Eastern Michigan, and Ohio. It has just not been very good for Northern Illinois, and while they're not terribly uncompetitive, they're just not winning football games either. To finish the season, they have Ball State, Toledo, UMass, Western Michigan, and Kent State, and I would put my money on them beating both UMass and Kent State, and I think they'll end up finishing the season at 3-9, but they'll have to make a decision about what they're going to do with their coach. Who knows? They also move conferences soon, so maybe they'll do better out in the Mountain West. A few years ago, it looked like South Alabama was starting to build something, as they had Kane Womack, but he is now gone, and they are back to their losing ways. Currently, the Jags are 1-6, and they are dead last in the conference, tied with Texas State and Georgia State. To start out the season, they ended up beating Morgan State 38-21, but since then, it has been nothing but losing for the Jags. They ended up losing by 2 points to Tulane, got beat by 2 touchdowns by Auburn, and then got beat by Coastal. They also were semi-competitive against North Texas, and only lost by 1 possession against both Troy and Arkansas State. Honestly, South Alabama is a lot more competitive than I thought, and if a couple plays go their way, they might have 4 wins. But they didn't, and they lost. South Alabama still has Georgia State, Louisiana, UL Monroe, Southern Miss, and Texas State. None of those teams are having a great season, so there's a chance that South Alabama could pop off in the back half of their schedule and maybe win 3 or 4 games. Or maybe not. Maybe they'll lose out. We've got 2 teams left on the list, and the first one is the Georgia State Panthers. It has been tough sledding for Georgia State this season, as they are currently 1-6 and tied for dead last with South Alabama and Texas State in the Sun Belt. Their only win of the season came in Week 3 against FCS level Murray State, and other than that, they've honestly had a pretty tough schedule. They played on the road against Ole Miss and Vanderbilt, who are now both having incredible seasons. They also lost to Memphis and James Madison, who were 2 of the best Group of 5 schools, and then they also have losses to App State and Georgia Southern. I'm not saying Georgia State is any good, but they have had a more difficult schedule than some of these other teams. To finish off the season, they'll face off with South Alabama this upcoming week, and maybe they can pull that one off and get their second win, but I don't know. They also play Coastal, Marshall, Troy, and Old Dominion, and I'm not sure if I picked them in any of those 4 games. Their best chance at a second win will come against the Jags, and we'll see if they can pull it off. And last but not least, we get to both the worst team in the country and the last team in today's video, and that is the UMass Minutemen. They are in a horrible spot as they're under first-year head coach Joe Harasimiak, and he has not been able to change their fortune at all. In Week 1, they ended up getting blown out by Temple 42-10, before then losing at home to FCS Bryant. That was one of the worst losses of the season, if not the worst for any FBS team, and things have not gotten better. They ended up getting killed by Iowa, destroyed by Missouri, and then got beat badly by Western Michigan. This past weekend, they ended up losing by 1 score to Buffalo, which is an improvement, but that Kent State game might have been the worst. Kent State is known as the worst team in all of college football, and they ended up destroying them 42-6. UMass doesn't have a win. They've only been competitive in 2 games, and the rest of their schedule isn't all that easy. They have 3 road games against Central Michigan, Akron, and Ohio, and then face off with Bowling Green and Northern Illinois. There is 0 reason for me to think they win any of these games, and there's a good chance that UMass goes 0-12 and will compete with Sam Houston for the title of the worst team in the FBS. They are my pick for the worst team this season, and I definitely think Sam Houston State would beat them by 2 touchdowns. Who knows though? What do you guys think? Who do you think the worst team in college football is? Why have these teams been so bad? And what topic should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.